pocketbooks and could cause a contraction in the economy. So just remember that there's a huge cost to such a shutdown.
Yeah, I understand it, and the government's importance is the economy.
You just said what's more important.
But what's more important is the economy, and this, in the long run, it's the economy, because we who are here today ain't going to be here tomorrow. 50 years from now. Now, you could cut travel. You could do, there's other ways to conduct business. We have technology, email, Skype. You can, have a business meeting.
Are you saying, listen, let me stop you for a second.
It's time to use technology.
It's actually, sometimes you have to have a catastrophic event to force people to switch how they do things.
Right. And that makes sense. And in this point, I think it's time that people start using technology and using things that are available to them in long-range situations. Seeing, grandma over in Italy or wherever at isn't as important as making sure that Ebola doesn't spread.
Right.
You can see grandma on Skype. You know what I mean? As far as that goes, the only thing you're missing is her hug and pie. But
well, and that might count for something. No, that's an issue.
It might count for something. Is right. But you have to limit travel, and you have to close the borders. As far as that goes, Ebola is something that I think is population control. Chris Brown said the first thing that ever made sense, in my opinion, whenever he come out and said that it's population control. In his opinion. Right. But, it is what it is. Now, you want to talk about this guy up here in PA, this officer, this guy up here that's been on the loose for, 5 weeks?
Right.
What are we spending? They said $1.4 million, and that doesn't include helicopters, fuel, vehicles.
What was that figure for? Was that daily or weekly?
No, that was a week, and now that was only for salaries. Right. That didn't include anything else but salaries. So, you look at your gasoline and the cost of running the equipment and, feeding everybody and everything. You're looking at probably $2 million a week.
Right.
And, it's true. I said the same thing. If Joe Schmo down the street, God forbid someone broke into his house and something happened to him, you're lucky enough to have a detective available to even look at the case because of cutbacks.
Right.
We find 3,000 officers that we can just throw up there 24 hours a day and put on rotating shifts because a cop got shot.
And
you know what I mean? Like, when it comes down to it, it comes down to economics and, saving money. If the guy is meant to be caught, he's going to get caught.
I had a case one time. Where a woman gets a letter from somebody and she's upset about the letter, but it wasn't like a threatening letter, let's say. It was just sort of an embarrassing letter, allegedly from another woman, and she wanted to cite harassment from this other woman. So,
like a blackmail letter or something?
No, it wasn't even that. It was just a really stupid letter. It was just, if you read the letter, it was just incredibly stupid. It basically just said, you're a terrible person and your husband likes to sleep around. That was pretty much the gist of the letter, okay?
Okay.
So the state police detective's like, oh, well, we need to know if this girl sent this letter. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like even if she did send the letter, it's not even a crime. It just basically says, I don't like you and I don't like your husband and he's a lech. Like, what do I care? Oh, no, I need to investigate this, and I need your client's fingerprints. And I was like, well, go get a warrant for the fingerprints. Good luck, buddy, because the judge is going to laugh at you when he sees this freaking letter. Oh, gosh, the state police were all over this thing, and they finally backed down, threatening this and threatening that. Well, you know what? Here's what you found out. Guess what the girl's father did for a living? The one who was embarrassed by this letter. Her father was a police officer.
Yeah.
And so, go figure, right? We've got a detective out hunting down fingerprints on a letter that this girl didn't like, that a coworker sent her allegedly, and she was sure she knew who the coworker was because of the grammar in the letter or something like this, and they were going to try to use that to get fingerprints. And of course, this person was somebody I'd already represented in the past, and so when they called me and said they want to talk to me, I said, let me handle it. But it made me laugh because you're like, really, we've got a full-blown detective tracking down a a letter like this. Well, but this is my point. My point is you're right. It's probably getting unusual amounts of expenditure and attention. Although I pointed out a minute ago, there is a certain public policy to making it clear that you don't attack law enforcement head on to deter those kinds of problems and make it practical. In other countries, they blow up judges and prosecutors, and as a result, criminals in Mexico and Colombia and other places have found that their charges aren't treated as seriously because they actually hold some blackmail leverage over the constabulary.
Right. You can't do. I don't know. It's corruption is what it is. I mean, they didn't chase Ted Bundy down that much whenever he was going back in the 70s. From state to state, they wasn't looking for him like that, and he killed how many people? I mean,
right.
It's just ridiculous. Tax dollars going to waste, and they're complaining they don't have any. So if you don't have any money, then how are we coming up with this money at?
Right.
So,
well, they're just going to spend it.
It's all ridiculous.
They're just going to spend it. But you see this, a third guy resigned over these emails, by the way, these dirty emails.
Yeah.
Was it Randy Feathers?
Randy was reading dirty emails.
Well, he claims he never looked at them. Of course, then the other little side show on that is that, according to Chief Justice, there were 234 porn emails sent or by or to Supreme Court Justice McCaffrey as well. With
200 and
Pennsylvania Supreme Court Justice Amos McCaffrey Center received 234 sexually explicit emails and an apparent running digital conversation with a now retired agent. Ron Castile made it public. Well, those two have been at loggerheads for a long time.
Well, I don't understand. Well, I mean, if you're at work, I mean, maybe they're friends and they're talking about, you know what I mean? But you don't do that at work.
Right.
You don't run it through the state email system.
Let me tell you something. I've seen a billion pieces of pornography in my short life, and I have even forwarded pornographic emails to friends of mine. Right. Whatever. But one thing we didn't do was, hey, send it to the guy at the county at his county address, or and I've never worked in an office where it would be considered acceptable. I remember one time I came back to my office years ago, and the secretaries had been to lunch, and somebody got these little erasers that looked like penises to put on the back of their pencils, and I had to be like, girls. I know this seems funny, okay, and I understand that it's funny, but it's just not. We're not allowed to do that at work and even though there's only three of you, and all three of you have participated, one of you may later decide that this was not a good idea. So we can't do this here. And of course, everybody was like, yeah, we know we shouldn't have done it. And, so everybody makes a stupid little mistake like that. But you notice that I didn't allow a culture of, penis erasers to crop up throughout the office and remain, which apparently at the Attorney General's office under Tom Corbett, even though he claims he didn't know anything about any of this, apparently nobody really thought it was a big deal. And these were all the senior guys trading this stuff around, and a lot of it was misogynistic. I think they all have to go, and I think anybody who is having these conversations, and I'm interested because they're basically saying a guy named Frank Fina down in Philadelphia, who prosecuted Sandusky, and who I worked with in that case, nice guy, but they're saying that he might have been one of the big users and perpetrators of this stuff, but he somehow got the courts to seal his name. But I guess Seth Williams, the DA down in Philadelphia, really doesn't care because if it were me and I was elected DA, and of course I'll never be an elected DA, but especially after what I've done, but if I were an elected DA, I don't think I would keep a guy on staff and defend him and pretend like nothing happened. So I say shame to the Philly DA for pretending like it's no big deal. Unless he doesn't care about misogynistic porn, and then I think all the women in Philadelphia County should be made aware of that. But hey, what do I know?
Well, we said misogynistic.
Yeah. No.
I'm lost. Massage. It sounds kind of like
no
sensual.
Misogynistic, like anti-female, my friend. Not like happy ending massage. Not that kind of porn.
All
right.
I see what you're saying.
All right, get off my air.
Right,
get off my air. I need some responsible
I'll
callers
I'll
out here.
talk to you later. Go watch your misogynistic porno. I'll talk to you
I don't participate in that kind.
Bye-bye.
Sadistic, masochistic, misogynistic. There's so many ways to describe pornography, some of which sounds better than others. But I like that. He think it was massage. Yes, it was massage porn. All right. Well, enough about pornography and enough about Ebola for tonight. I'm not going to beat this dead horse. I'm going to keep the show short. I'll give you guys like one more minute. If you're dying to call in, you feel like you have to contribute. If you happen to ride an airplane from Cleveland to Dallas in the last couple days and you want to tell me about the girl hacking on you who looks a lot like the girl in the picture in the news, I would love to hear about that as well. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, Carl. It's Jim Bob.
Hey, what's going on, my friend?
And took the day off to rest my eyes and, of course, listen to a good show.
Well, thank you.
You have to keep on sharing the bad news because it's the reality.
I did say I would only do it if there was 2 patients, but I think the fact that it was another nurse and that they let her fly on a flight made it newsworthy, and I felt I had to bring it out. But, you know, these idiots on Facebook are going to be telling me, you're just inciting fear. There's nothing to fear. You know what? There's nothing to fear if you are, I guess you just think, what, the government has it all under control, and I don't want to deal with the fact that there's a plague on the loose, so I'm just going to psychologically defend my position and my false hope by beating down anybody who tries to spoon feed me a little of the truth. What little children. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I know this afternoon, if I remember right, there was going to be like around 3 or 4 o'clock. It might have been based on the time zones. There was going to be a national forum online for nurses to talk and then going over things and trying to get their heads together on what's going on with protocols and everything. I mean, I'm thinking the CDC saying they had stuff for 7 months going and planned, and it doesn't sound like it.
I have, and I need to get this up on Facebook. I had a nurse give me a poster that they've posted in the hospitals. You know, that's about as much as they've gotten to. The reality is, now listen, let's talk about this. Modern medicine, infection control is a very, very rigorous series of procedures and sciences and protocols. And it is not, you know, people think of infection control. They think of, I'm watching MASH and the guy's scrubbing his hands under hot water with soap and a bristle brush. And sure, that's one piece of infection control, but modern infection control is an endless series of protocols and protections and ways of doing things. And they are things that you can't just do successfully the first time. There are things that getting everything in the right order is absolutely critical. So I'll give you an example. When most people start up a car and drive down the road, okay, they are very inept at what they're doing. In fact, 90% of drivers believe they're better than everybody else, which is a fallacy. But most drivers, as a rule, are fairly inept. However, driving is also fairly easy. As a result, we only have so many crashes and so many fatalities. But did you notice that in order to fly a Boeing 747, you have to have a hell of a lot more training, and you have to have a whole series of protocols and other things you follow, and then they do things to defend against mechanical failure as well. So you don't only have just pilot error, you have mechanical problems that are all defended against through robust checkpoint systems, protocols, checklists, ways and orders of doing things, and best practices that are rigorously adhered to by professionals who've spent their entire life, including a lot of early training, building up these protocols. So to ask a nurse who's used to maybe running a central line, or who maybe is used to drawing blood from non-infectious patients, to suddenly walk into an environment and adhere to infection protocols that are astronomically complex is ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. So it's not, you know, I've had people go, well, these nurses should be wearing gowns and gloves. And I'm like, it's not that simple. It's all about things like, yes, you glove, but how do you deglove? Where do you deglove? How do you drop the glove into the garbage can without touching another surface? What do you do to keep aerosols off your face? Is it a negative pressure room? Does that make a damn bit of difference if the guy coughs on you? And when you're cleaning his diarrhea up, off of his bedpan or his diaper or whatever mechanism you're using to collect it. How do you collect it? Where do you put it? What do you do if you trip and fall with it? What if you're using a sharp? What if you have to intubate the patient?